on the next one. 1.3. So on 1.3 they say that determine the values of p for which the roots will be non-real. So you need to ask yourself, what are we referring to when we say something is non-real? How can we get non-real? Remember, if I have a square root, okay, the square root of negative number is non-real. So we need to find a way to introduce a square root in that equation. To find a square root, then whatever that will be inside the square root, we're going to say it must be less than 0. So if I have the square root of, let's say, the square root of a, since a is inside the square root, so for this to be non-real, a must be less than 0. So my question is that, how can we introduce the square root? If I have x minus 3, and this is equated to what? To p squared minus 4. The x minus 3 is squared. How can I introduce there? How can I introduce there the square root there? I can square both sides. I can square both sides. Therefore, what is this equals to? This will give me x minus 3. It's equals to the root of what? The root of p squared minus 4. So I can bring the x to the other side and say x is equals to the root p. Oh, if I bring the 3 to the other side, the 3 will be positive. So this will be 3. Then we say plus, right? So now let's fix something here. Now remember, the square root of any number in maths is plus or minus. So if I square both sides, this will be plus or minus the root of p squared. So this one will be 3. It's plus or minus that root of p squared minus 4. Did we answer the question yet? No, because the question said for which values of p. Now we need to find p. We have x, we need to find p. This will be non-real. Remember, I said for non-real, take whatever that you have inside your square root. What do you have inside the square root? We have p squared minus 4. Then that p squared minus 4 has to be less than 0. So what I'm trying to say is that to solve this problem, you need to say your p squared minus 4 must be less than 0. Then solve for p. So p squared must be less than 4 because the 4 goes to the other side to be positive. Then you can square both sides. Right, but remember, the square root of any number, the square root of any number is plus or minus. Right, so this tells me that if it's plus or minus, this has to do with inequalities. Nah? This has to do with inequalities. So I think it's best if we solve this problem as an inequalities. What will you do if you solve it? Because it's an inequality, you can factorize this to find your critical values. This will be p, this will be p, and the factors of 4 is 2 and 2. One side is positive, the other one is negative, and they should be less than 0. Okay, so now remember, I said write this down and say see this, then put the small number. If we solve this, we're going to have a negative 2 as the answer and positive 2. These are my critical values. I need to do what? You need to draw the graph. It's very important that you draw the graph to find the exact solution. So now this is minus 2. I have that as 2, and the value of a here is positive. Your graph will be concave up. Remember, you can choose any number between. So when it's like this, I can choose 0. I always like to choose 0. So the middle part, I can choose 0 and substitute that 0 in this original equation. So when you put 0, you're going to have 0 squared minus 4. So the answer is negative. This tells you that the solution in between is negative. So remember, we said if the middle part is negative, what happens about the other side? The other side will be positive. So this will be positive and that will be positive. So the question is asking for which values of p is this For this to be non-real, the values of P must be less than 0. Less than 0 means what? Negative. So this will be from this point going in that direction, and this will be from this point in that direction. So P must be less than 2 and greater than minus 2. So this is the solution that you need to give them, so that they can do what? So that they can give you your 5 marks. Because why? You deserve it. For writing all this on the paper, you definitely deserve that 5 marks.